So, but for me, I think I was putting more of the pressure on myself that I needed to be. I was just very afraid that, well, maybe they won't accept me as a first lady or they won't see me as a first lady. I don't, wear the hats. A lot of my friends were joking, gotta get a hat, girl. I'm like, no. For the majority of our church family, I feel like they love me for who I am and accept me for who I am. And I think to help myself not feel that pressure or to really, not feel like I have to be what I'm not. I just prayed. I'm like, Lord, I want to be who I am. And I want people to accept me for who I am.
Hello, and welcome to the Enlightened First Lady podcast, where we are talking to Lady Monica Coleman today. Hi, Lady Monica. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing so well. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I am so excited to chat, to just get to know you more and your journey as a first lady. So we're just going to get right into it. Are you ready?
I'm ready, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll see, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, just first, just kind of talk to me. Well, who is Monica Coleman? Sister Monica, Mother Monica, Lady Monica, whatever. Tell the folks who you are.
Okay. Well, I am Monica Coleman. I'm a mother of 3 plus 1 bonus child. That's a long story. That might be another podcast. But 3 of my own that I have 2 boys and a girl. My oldest is 25, Bryce. He is in dental school at the University of Michigan. My daughter is a junior at Belmont University in Nashville. And my youngest, my baby, is Noah. He's 17. He's a junior in high school here in Columbus. And I'm married to Carlos Coleman. I've been married for 26 years, almost 27. Come August, what else am I? I'm a stay-at-home mom. Other than ministry, that has been my full-time job, which is slowly coming to a close. Well, quickly coming to a close, not slowly, but quickly coming to a close. Being that my youngest is a junior in high school, so he has 1 more year. I have 1 bonus grandchild, a grandson. He is 2 years old. I'm a great aunt to 3 nephews, 3 boys of my oldest niece, who pretty much I helped raise during the summer times over her years. So she's kind of like a child as well. And I stay-at-home mom, and I own a business as well that is still getting off the ground. A little more on that later. But just, just doing life and trying to, be not trying to be everything to everybody, but feel like I'm having to be everything to everybody. I'm also, my mother has come to live with me as well in my family after my father had passed in 2020. So, helping her along her latter years of life. And I'm a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha, Sorority Incorporated, graduate of Howard University, Howard University in 1996. And pretty much that's me for the most part, but just loving life and doing things that God has called me to do, trying to do them fearlessly, of course, not fearlessly, but trying to be obedient to all of it. But just ready to see what's going on and what's happening in the next few years for me, because I believe it will be my time after my son graduates where I can just really do all the things that I know God has called me to do.
That's so exciting. I love that. You wear many, many hats. And I know we'll talk about that a little bit more in depth later. But thank you so much again for just being here and sharing your story. And so you mentioned Carlos Coleman, your husband, Pastor Coleman. Talk to me. How did you all meet? Was he in the ministry when you all met? What was that journey like?
Well, he was not in the ministry by a long shot when we first met. I met him. I was home for summer. Probably before my junior year of college, I came home for the summer. This is supposed to be my very last summer coming back to Columbus, Georgia, because I told Mom, I was like, this is my last summer. I'm not coming back. And so a friend of mine from high school, and this is how I know it was God that put us together, because I had not spoken to her since we graduated. And she just called me out of the blue that summer and said, I have somebody I want you to meet. And of course, after a couple of weeks of protesting, because I don't know if I want to meet anybody that I didn't tell her that, but of course I'm just like, I don't know about that. I'm good. I'm good. Single. I'm living life, loving it. And so I finally gave in because she came to my house and actually dragged me to his house or his apartment, where he and a friend, she was dating one of his friends. And so they were just all at the apartment hanging out. And so she decided she wanted to force me pretty much to go over there. I just had no idea why. I just had to meet this guy. So I went with her and met him that night. And I was just a little shaky about the company that he was keeping. And I was just very quiet. And it was actually my parents' anniversary. And I kind of told a little white lie and said that my parents are having a party and I would have to go back to it. So that was like my out to leave. And so after about 30, 40 minutes, he was trying to talk to me and, find out where I was from, what I was doing at school and all that. And I don't know what it was. I thought he was cute and liked him, but I was just like, I don't know about this, this crowd of folks he's with. And so I said, well, I need to leave. I have to go back to my parents' party. And so I left. And I didn't go home, but I did go to another friend's house and told her, hey, told her about, she's like, girl, just meet him and see what he's about or whatever. So I went back, told him I was coming back, and I came back and then, we finished they were watching a movie. So we're watching a movie and then everybody was leaving. And then he was walking me to my car and pretty much told me he wanted to marry me that night. And of course, he said, he was just, you're everything I've been looking for, I could marry you. Then it was just wild. And I was like, whoa, that scared me. And so the next 2 weeks, I did give him my number, but I kept, putting off his call. He would call out and well, and, make excuses or I didn't call him back. And I did remember that his birthday was July 26th. And I noticed he hadn't called me like in a few days. And something just, put in my spirit. I think it was the Lord saying, hey, wasn't his birthday today? And so I called him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but wished him a happy birthday. And then we decided to go on a date. And his first date was our first date was to his parents' house.
Oh, wow.
So he introduced me to his parents that night. And I could just say we're pretty much inseparable since then. So.
Oh, wow. That is such a sweet story. And shout out to that friend for being a vessel.
I know. It's so funny. I just talked to her. Well, I just hooked up with her on Instagram not too long ago. And I said, we're still together.
Oh my God. So all things were working. All things were working.
Sure.
So then when he accepted his call to the ministry, what was that conversation like? Or was there one?
We were married by that time. It's funny because the winter, we got engaged actually 4 months after we met. Of course, I was still in school, so there was no wedding until after I graduated, which I had 2 years. But his father, I was home for Christmas, and his father answered his call into the ministry that he had been putting off for like 20 years. He knew 20 years ago that he should have gone into ministry, and he finally, gave in. I mean, he was always in minute deacon board, the chairman of the board of deacons and all of that, but just kept putting off going into the ministry. But he accepted his call in 1994, that Christmas that we got engaged. And so when after I graduated and we got married in 1996, his father became a pastor of a church, a little small country church. And we decided we would join that church and help his dad in the ministry. And at first, my husband was ordained as a deacon. And then within about a year, 6 months to a year, I can't remember exactly when, he had gotten the call to become a minister and to minister. And so I don't think I was surprised because we were already really heavy into helping the ministry. Like I said, it was a small country church, and they used to only meet 2 Sundays out of the month. And then his dad, his dad always jokes that when he became the pastor, or well, no, when we visited the church, that there were only like 8 people, and 4 of us were were there. It was mother, myself, and Carlos and his dad. And then I was pregnant too with our first child. But he became the minister. He became got his call into the ministry, and like I said, it just didn't really change much because we were just doing ministry, Sunday school, Bible study, all of that. So, and I don't think I really comprehended what that meant other than I'm just doing, he's going to be preaching sometimes and I'm just doing what, when I was doing. So
And so the church that you all are at, or that you provide leadership now, what's the name of that church? Where can we find it?
it's New Birth Outreach Church in Columbus, Georgia. Online, it may say Midland, Georgia, but it's just like a little suburb of Columbus. New Birth Outreach Church. I'm sorry. And the website is newbirthoutreachchurch.com.
And so did you all start that church, or did he kind of succeed someone?
So my husband succeeded his father. So his father founded New Birth Outreach Church. That was not the first church that we started at, that his father started at. But in 2002 is when New Birth Outreach Church was birthed. And his father was the lead pastor. My husband, we started off as youth pastor. And then he eventually became assistant pastor, kind of administrative stuff for his dad and everything. And then my husband became lead pastor in 2014.
Okay.
His dad retired, and then my husband became the lead pastor.
I love that. So what was that transition like I mean, I imagine, I would hope that it just was kind of organic, but becoming, you were are you a clergy too? Were you both
No,
serving in a youth? Okay. No. Okay,
no,
cool.
but I helped him along with the youth. I was over children's worship and all of that, that stuff with the kids for most of my time, during his assistant and youth pastoral. So I just helped along.
And so how has your role changed and your responsibilities? What does it look like now?
Well, the biggest thing is that it just, I had to come up front, which that is not a comfortable, because I love being in the background. I love doing things, love children's worship and, getting stuff together for them and getting them ready for Christmas programs and all that stuff and Easter programs. So the biggest thing was having to be up front my husband's been in there before because he's preached, he's led Bible study, during the times before. But for me, teaching and all that stuff, other than the kids, being in front of adults was just a totally different thing. And it's way out of my comfort zone. And so that was probably the biggest thing. And now it's, I still don't like being out front, but I've accepted that is kind of what I need to do. So I do it with a lot of prayer and just, God and, his grace and pushing me forward and all of that. But yeah, that's the difference in it. For me, I think, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing is just being out front and having to lead. I mean, I've led kind of from the background before, but from the foreground where everybody's eyes are really on you, it's a little scary. You feel.
Do you feel like there's, a added pressure or that you're looked at differently since your husband became the pastor? And how do you work through that? You mentioned obviously, being prayed up in your role now, but any other ways in which you kind of practice that self-care and make sure you stay grounded?
Right. Well, I think for our church is very unique because of the precedence that was set with his mother and his father. Now his mother is in the clergy; she is also a pastor, and so her, I don't know if people were thinking I was gonna go into that too, but I just had never felt that God had pushed me into that role. If anything, I'm more of a teacher because that's kind of my background and my, what I went to school for and all of that. So that kind of comes natural. And I think in the beginning, that was my fear is that people would have these expectations of me to be like my mother-in-law because she is so loved. She is the most precious woman, prayer warrior. She preached all of that, you know. And so I think that was part of my fear was, you know, are they going to expect me to do it? Because we are totally opposite. You know, she, not that she likes to be up front, but and she can be a little shy too, but when she, you know, up there, she commands, you know, her presence. She commands the audience, all of that. For me, I'm a little bit more meek, I guess, and a little more quiet. And people have known me for years in our church to be that way. So, but for me, I think I was putting more of the pressure on myself that I needed to be. You know, I was just very afraid that, well, maybe they won't accept me as a first lady or they won't see me as a first lady. You know, I don't, you know, wear the hats. You know, a lot of my friends were joking, got to get a hat, girl. You know, I'm like, no, that's one thing I'm not doing is getting a hat. I do not have a hat head, first of all. But yeah, so, you know, just those stereotypical things, you know, and then, you know, I have to be dressed to a T all the time, you know, my kids were still kind of young, not really young, but young. And I'm just like, well, I just, you know, heels and all that stuff. I'm a comfortable. I like to dress nice, but I like comfortable. So, you know, but all that stuff, I think that I was putting on myself thinking I had to do that. I don't think our congregation was looking at that for me. I think they knew who I was from the years that I've served and that we've done things that they pretty much have accepted me. I think for who I am and you know what I am and who I represent them as a first lady. At least that's what they tell me. Uh, I know there have been people who have come and gone out of our church that may not have seen me as, you know, as the right first lady, I guess, because I'm not the type that just, you know, sits and, you know, I guess what your stereotypical first lady would be. And so I guess I didn't sit right with them and that, you know, I heard little chitter chatter and stuff. But for the majority of our church family, I feel like they love me for who I am and accept me for who I am. And I think to help myself not feel that pressure or to really, you know, not feel like I have to be what I'm not. I just pray. I'm like, Lord, I want to be who I am. And I want people to accept me for who I am, you know, for the words that I say, for the, you know, the teachings that I do, because I am more of a teacher. You know, it's not going to be a whole lot of, you know, hoopla or whatever from me when I do teach. But yeah, so I just kind of have had to, you know, focus my eye on God and what he's called me to do and how he's called me to be. And that's just myself.
I love that. And I think that's just so important to just be authentic, you know, in whatever role you're occupying. Show up as who God created you to be. And so I love that. We're kindred spirits in that way because yeah, the hats, I'll rock a hat every now and then, but that is not my jam. And it wasn't my mom's either. My mom's also first lady. And
Okay.
my dad accepted his calling when I was in middle school. So it was a bit of a shift to become a
Mhm.
PK at such a pivotal age. But my mom was always who she was. She was always true to herself. And so I had a good example in that. And it sounds like even though your mother-in-law is quite different, you too had an example. Did she give you any kind of advice as that transition was happening?
I think pretty much she told me to be myself, you know, and she knew because, yeah, nobody wants me to be like, well, she doesn't want me to be like her, like, because we're not the same, you know. So she just always said, just be yourself. They're going to love you for who you are. Um, you know, of course, watch out for certain things and, you know, have discernment about people and letting them get too close to you and all of that. So she's just been, and they're still part of the church and active in the church. And so yeah, so she's always been there as a great help and just pray into a prayer warrior. Like I said, she prays for Carlos and I all the time in the ministry and in our roles and all of that stuff and people around us and all of that. So yeah, she's
That's awesome.
yeah.
And so now I heard, you know, you referenced that you might have been privy to some chitter chatter at some different points. And we recognize that we're dealing with humans where
Mhm.
we all have our own imperfections. So how do you handle challenges that may pop up? Or even if, your husband handles something some way and you're like, oh, I don't know if I would have done it that way, babe. Like, how do you all navigate that?
Well, I think I've been blessed that I have not had a whole lot of, interactions with people that may have problems with me. Like I said, that was chitter chatter that came back that my husband heard. And that came back, he came back and told me, about these people who are really no longer even a part of our church anymore. So, for the most part, even with that, I think I'm not a very confrontational person or someone who really likes to get into a lot of mess or whatever. So I keep it at bay. And I just give people like that grace. And I'm just like, well, you won't get close to me, that's for sure. And so I just try to give them grace. And I know people who are like that, they have their own issues and they have their own problems. And my husband, he is like the best at handling that stuff. I mean, he's been in management. He's a relationship, personal person. I'm very much so an introvert and I don't go outside my circle too much, which can be kind of a hindrance for me because I don't meet new people easily. That's why I'm glad we're kind of connecting because it's pretty awesome. This is a safe way for me, a safe way for me to do it. But for him, he just knows, where people, and he has had a lot of you know, issues with people and church members and just different things and having to fire people and things like that. But he does it in such a tactful, graceful way that when I see him, if I have to come across something like that, then I'm going to model that behavior for sure. I mean, he just has a way of dealing with people and just really, even at the when it's the hardest thing or the worst possible thing that may have happened, he just has a way to do it where, it may hurt the person and the person may get their feelings hurt, but he also knows how to come back around and say, it's never my intention to hurt you or to this is what I want you to learn from it. And that's pretty much what he does in every situation that may be, have an issue like that. So yeah. So I take his uh rule book and follow it if I have to, come across something like that.
Beautiful. So it seems like you two are on one accord and really in lockstep of how you operate, and the fact that you see him as a model is really beautiful. So thank you for sharing that. All right. Well, we're coming to a close, believe it or not. We kind of talked about challenges and how you all navigate that. But I imagine you've had some really rewarding moments too. And I didn't know if you cared to elaborate or one particular moment where, you as, wearing your first lady hat was able to affect change or, really made an impact on someone or one of the members.
Well, recently, it's funny you should ask that because we just had, of course, saving souls and just, the great things that God does in our ministry and through the ministry is just, very rewarding all the time. But I just have to say, because we've been talking about this since probably October. There's a young lady who grew up in our church and she just graduated from university in last May. And she, gave us her testimony of how she has just fallen in love with Jesus. And I mean, she is just so on fire. I mean, just this young 22-year-old, young lady, beautiful, just I mean, she has just been rocking. I mean, she's changed both of Carlos and I's just outlook on ministry as a whole. Because I think when you do it for so many years and you encounter the same things and the same issues over and over again with church people and all of that stuff, I mean, you can kind of I think you get burned out for sure. And then it's just, you need a revival of some sort. And this was one, we've been doing things to be able to get that for sure. But this has just brought us so much joy and just her. I mean, she's already talked to like our college students. She's talking to our high school students, and it's all about loving Jesus and no compromising on anything. And this has been the most refreshing thing that I've heard from a young person. And it has just put so much hope in my heart for the next generation and, my children, and just, bringing that love of God. It reminded me of when I fell in love with Jesus when I was 22, 21, 22 years old, when I really fell in love with him for myself, not just from, my parents and, people around me, but just a true relationship with him. And it's just ignited that fire back in me again as well, just hearing from her. So just knowing that we've had a part of that, of course, God really had the ultimate part, but just her foundation. And I used to teach her, in children's worship and, and helped her with Christmas programs and all of that stuff. But she just says how she sees how all of that, her foundation and, and being at church and doing things at church, how it's just really, been pivotal in her, even though she had to come to a come to Jesus moment, during her graduation and when she graduated. But it's just all of that love that she has been taught all her life just coming forth. And now she's ready to do the work of the Lord, whatever he has for her to do. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just so beautiful, and it's been the most rewarding so far.
Oh, that is awesome. What a testimony. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Yeah, we had a young man, 22,
Uh,
preach for our youth Sunday last week. And it was phenomenal. And so many people were like, yeah, thank you. Cause I met him at a vacation Bible school with another ministry that it supports St. Paul. And I was phenomenal. Okay. All right. Well, to wrap us up, Lady Monica, just talk to me about, how can people get a hold of you, find out more about what you're doing, get connected to you. I thank you so much for your time and sharing with me today. But yeah, and I don't want to leave anything unsaid. And we probably could do a part 2 where we unpack some other different things that are going on. But yeah, just any kind of closing thoughts and just let folks know how they can find you on the interwebs, as I like.
okay. Yes. I just want to thank you as well for having me on here and for having this outlet, because I wish I would have had something like this when, even just going into the ministry, as a 20-something-year-old, just working there, because I think that's missing, especially for younger people, maybe even for the ladies your age who are first ladies. And because most, when you think of first lady, most of them are, maybe my age now or older. But just, for to have this and to speak on behalf of the first ladies of the world, or the nation of, it's just awesome. And I think it's going to be a great, great, outlet for ladies, because we need the support. We need it where there's no judgment, there's no expectations, and where people can be authentic, and, authentically themselves. So thank you, Lady Kira, for having this and doing this. But yeah, people can find me. I'm on Facebook, Monica Coleman, Instagram, Monica_Y_Coleman. You can find me on or reach out to me on newbirthoutreach.com. And also our women's conference website that we have a women's conference every September. It's on uniteconference.org. We're also on Instagram, Night Women's Ministry, in Facebook and Instagram. And then we always have updates and stuff going on about the women's ministry and the conference on those sites as well. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, we will definitely make sure we blast all those different outlets out so that folks can find you, get connected, get inspired, and just, grow in the kingdom. So that's ultimately our mission and our goal. So I appreciate you so much.